Welcome to She is Resilient, a podcast for women on their healing journeys who are ready to start living their most authentic and empowered lives outside of survival mode. I'm your host, Tatiana, trauma and somatic therapist, as well as a holistic coach, and I'm on a mission to help more women heal their nervous systems. Each week, me and my guests are going to get real and vulnerable about the experiences that led us to becoming the empowered and resilient women we are today. You'll leave this podcast with the skills, knowledge, and inspiration to start creating the life you deserve. Because if another woman can do it, so can you. Welcome back to another episode of She is Resilient. Today we have Samantha on the podcast. Samantha, tell us who you are and what you do for a living.
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast today. I am Samantha Gregory, the Self-Care Alchemist and a tech wellness consultant. I help women who are on the brink of burnout overcome the tips and strategies to help them build better boundaries, have more balance, and move into bliss. I have been through a lot in life. Single mother. I have kids on both sides of the spectrum, both gifted and autistic, and it's been quite a journey. My story has helped a lot of people, and I hope that it helps someone today on this podcast.
Yeah, I know it's definitely going to help at least one person. So I'm excited to learn more about you and hear your story. So tell us a little bit about your healing journey and where it started, how it began.
It really started what was it? A Black Friday. It was after Thanksgiving. I was at the mall shopping with my best friend, and I started sweating. I was profusely sweating, and it was just like, what is happening right now? Why am I so hot? And of course, it's cold at that time of year, but I felt like a furnace had hit me. And I was thinking, and I was 32 years old, and I was thinking, this could not be. I've heard of people having hot flashes. I've seen people have hot flashes, and I know that it's usually because they're in menopause. So what is really going on here? And I went to the doctor and they ran tests and everything. And they were like, well, you have what's called premature ovarian failure, AKA early menopause. And I was in shock because I was like, what? That I'm only 32, about to be 33. And how is this happening to me right now? And I had to go back and I had to really do what had been happening in my life up until that time. I was in school full time. I was working full time. I was coming out of a very toxic relationship. I had been on all of my life on one of those overachievers, perfectionists, always doing the things, making sure that if it's going to be done, it has to be done by me, and really being the one who's taking care of everyone else's needs but my own. And I was running on empty, and I didn't really realize it because I was so used to it. And like earlier, I was in college, and I actually going back to college as a single parent, and I was, of course, that's why I was juggling so much. And one of my counselors told me that I had functional depression, and it was just, you're walking around, you're getting things done, you're doing life, but you're really depressed underneath the surface. But I didn't know it had been topped off with anxiety and all the other things that had been piling on, and having a lot of negative thoughts and mindset, even though I felt like I was a positive person because I'm getting it done, I'm doing all the things, I'm accomplishing all these things. And I literally graduated with honors. I got a job offer. I bought a house. I bought a car. I was doing all the things to make it look right. But on the inside, my soul was dying and I didn't really realize it. My body was now showing me, hey, something is wrong and you must pay attention. I was doing research, and so adrenal fatigue was part of it. High cortisol levels was part of it. My depression was surfacing even more, and I was put on a depression medication. They wanted to put me on hormone replacement therapy, but at the time I was like, yeah, no, I can't do that. So I
Mhm.
didn't want the side effects of that.
Mhm.
So I looked for natural ways to heal my body, but I hadn't really had not paid attention to my soul yet, not paid attention to my heart yet. But I went through process of healing the symptoms. And then that's when the emotional avalanche started to rise, and
Mhm.
the pressure valve was tightening even more because I was so busy trying to figure out the physical. I wasn't really paying attention to the mental. And so I just went on this journey after that of radical selfishness, because I knew if I it hit me one day, it's like, if I don't take care of myself, I'm going to end up in the grave because of all the stress, all the pressure, all the health issues that I was starting to face. And I just had to take a step back and just say, you know what? Your life is way more valuable than what you've been placing on it. And your children need to see you. You need to be here for them.
Mhm.
And because if you're not, where are they going to go? Even though I have family, but it's still like, yeah, I need to take care of them. I don't
Mhm.
want them to be orphans, and I don't want them to feel abandoned. And so I had to really start the healing process so that I could get to the space where I feel happy and free. And it took time. It took years, because it took years for me to get there. It
Yeah.
took years for me to go through this journey as well.
I'm curious to know what that was like for you once you started your healing journey, because it really does sound like your nervous system was on this overdrive and you started to experience these psychosomatic symptoms. And of course, right, when our nervous systems are on
Mhm.
overdrive, it's definitely going to catch up to us, right? And so I'm curious to know what that was like for you to start that healing journey and start to address those underlying emotional wounds.
hmm It was, at first, it was really about journaling. I did a lot of journaling and writing because I'm a writer anyway. My degree is English, and so that's just like my background. But
Mhm.
I've always journaled, because it was just like doing mind dumps, getting all that out of my head so that I
Mhm.
could function.
Mhm.
But this time it was more intense, and it was more, I needed more than just journaling. And I'm not saying that journaling is bad, it's okay as a maintenance,
Mhm.
but it's not the solution to the healing that you need. And
Mhm.
then I found emotional freedom technique,
Mhm.
EFT, and
Mhm.
I started practicing it. Like, oh, this is almost not exactly at the time it first came out, but it was a couple of years later, because
Mhm.
I was researching how to cope.
Mhm.
That was the main phrase I was looking for, how to cope, because I never learned
Mhm.
how to cope with negative emotions. I never saw it in my family,
Mhm.
my immediate family or my extended family.
Mhm.
Everyone was running away from their emotions. And
Mhm.
so nobody knew how to deal with it. And so I needed to learn how to cope so that I could manage my physical symptoms and my depression and my anxiety and the isolation that I was feeling. And
Mhm.
so I found emotional freedom technique. I started doing that,
Mhm.
and it really started to really help. And one of the main things I was using to heal was a very long relationship that I had been in. And I knew that if I didn't get that person out of my head and out of my system, that I would be stuck for a long, long time.
Mhm.
And so that was one of the main things that I worked on. And it was just like almost miraculous. Even though journaling was amazing and great, EFT, that was like work wonders, because it was an immediate nervous system balancing and resetting and relief from
Mhm.
all that pressure, and the healing. So
Mhm.
that was one of the main things that I used, and it was great, but I still was not getting deep, because there was a lot of things deeply rooted inside of me. And
Mhm.
so I continued on my journey of reading, doing EFT, journaling, learning how to meditate, because I needed to, again, get that nervous system under control. I also went to therapy.
Mhm.
That really helped me. But I think the thing that really kind of was a capstone in my course for healing was, I had an ayahuasca experience. I
Oh.
went to Ecuador, and I went through 7 days of this experience where I, of course, took plant medicine, and I allowed myself to feel the feelings that I had been suppressing.
Mhm.
And for a lot of people, that's not a really good experience for them. But for me, it was amazing, because I had been going through years of the healing process, the
Mhm.
EFT, which I think released a lot of things for me. And so going through the ayahuasca experience was more of a now you're able to focus fully on yourself, radical self-care. Don't worry about anyone else. This is all about you. And through that journey of ayahuasca, I went through a sweat lodge experience. I went through so many different things. It really helped me to reconnect with myself.
Mhm.
And even in that reconnection process, which I never really even knew that was possible, it really healed my inner child. It really healed so much for me. And I also I went to Mexico, I went to Ecuador, I went to Bali, and did a stop off in Singapore. Um, and those travel experiences was like me going and finding pieces of myself
Mhm.
and reintegrating it back into who I was. Also, it was me cutting off the energies from different people and experiences that I had in life and really calling back the positive energy that I had been putting out and giving away pieces of myself. And I
Mm.
knew that was part of that journey as well.
Wow. What a fascinating journey.
Yeah.
You said two really important things. The first thing was that even though the journaling was helpful for you, you needed something more and you needed something deeper. And I think
Mhm.
that's so important. And you're not the first person to say that, but I think it's so important as a reminder that sometimes these coping skills are useful and helpful, and they can support you to some degree.
Mhm.
And when we have those unresolved wounds, we need a deeper level of healing. And
Mhm.
so, even though the journaling was helpful to get your thoughts out, it was something that was, it sounds like it was for the moment. It was
Mhm.
short-term relief. It wasn't that long-term deep relief that you were looking for. And then the
Mhm.
second thing that you said was because you were already, you kind of built the capacity in your, it sounds like you built the capacity in your body and your nervous system to be able to have a positive ayahuasca experience because
Mhm.
you were already journaling, you were meditating, you were doing EFT tapping, you had therapy, you were doing all of these different things that it sounds like you were able to build enough capacity and tolerance for you to be able to feel your emotions on a deeper level. Whereas
Mhm.
if you don't have that capacity, if you haven't gone through some of the other healing through therapy or whatever it is, another healing modality, it might feel overwhelming to have an
Mhm.
experience like the ayahuasca experience, right?
Yes.
And I think that's also important for the listeners to hear because I think that sometimes we think like, oh, we want to do these, you know, deep emotional releases, but we
Mhm.
forget that if our bodies don't have the capacity for it, we might have negative experiences or we
Right.
could potentially re-traumatize our bodies and our nervous systems.
Absolutely. And it was a sabbatical experience that I had
Mhm.
because I was burned out from work, I was burned out from parenting, and but by that time my kids were now young adults, and so I had the freedom to do this. A lot of women don't have that because they do have younger children that they are taking care of, and they're taking care of everyone else as well. So I was at the point where I was like, yeah, okay, now it's time for me. I can't take care of anyone else. I must take care of myself. And I was teaching my children how to take care of themselves in the process. And I started with them very young, which I'm so glad I did. I'm very big on teaching them resilience and independence, interdependence as well, so that they can stand on their own 2 feet, so that they can navigate life successfully. Yes, I'll still be there to coach them through certain things. I'm not going to ever leave them just hanging out there, but for them to be able to not be completely dependent on me, whether it's my daughter who was in the gifted program or my son who is on the autism spectrum and has some learning delays, they still are now able to be independent and can take care of themselves with support, some limited support from me, and still thrive. And even though they go through their own situations and challenges, and they feel at the growing pains, they still know that that they're strong, that they can handle it, that we've built the mental capacity, we've built critical thinking skills, I've helped them with just basic needs, household, taking care of themselves, taking care of their bills, making good decisions and purchasing things and stuff like that, so that they don't feel helpless in the world. And I think that's so important, but balancing it also with an open door policy
Mhm.
where they can come to me when they have needs, they can ask for advice and they can get support. I'm not going to do it for them, but I can help them make a good decision and give them some tools and strategies to navigate whatever they're dealing with.
1000%. I love this so much. And I imagine that healing yourself has also just made you a better and more present mom
Mm.
for your children. And I'm curious to know how you navigated being a mom, which is
Mhm.
a job in itself, right? And also your healing journey. How were you able to kind of balance both?
That's a story in and of itself. Um, I did not do well. I did not do well when it came to my emotions. I was very much I wasn't stoic, but I hid a lot of things that were bothering me, and I acted out in ways that were a bit damaging to our family. By inviting people in to solve our problems versus me learning how to solve it myself. So I was dealing with a lot of guilt and shame around being a single mother and also the pressure of doing it all on my own, especially when before my son was diagnosed, there was a lot that I was just like, I don't know what's wrong with him. I was trying to get diagnosis for him. I was trying to get doctors and teachers and any professional that I could to help me figure this out, but I was not getting anywhere with that. And so that was adding to another layer to the frustration. He was having meltdowns. He was not learning well. Even though he was a good kid, he just was not able to deal with life normally. And I was like, what do I do for him? And then I was getting a lot of pressure from family and from friends that he may be ADHD, he may have some other issues going on. And they were like, take him to the doctor, get him on medication. And then get to the point where, because he didn't start talking until he was 5 years old, he maybe need to be institutionalized or something like that. And so I was like, no, this is not happening. So I went into um, super mom mode. And I was just like, no, he's going to be okay. He's just a little delayed. We're going to figure it out because we did get the diagnosis that he had a learning disability from the school. But doctors would never tell me, could never tell me that he was autistic. They could never pinpoint it for me. And we went to speech therapy because of the speech delays and stuff like that. And so with all this pressure, I was having internal meltdowns. He was having the externals, I was having the internals, and I wanted to
Mhm.
scream. It was just so many different things. And so I did a lot of, I guess, extreme and radical things during that time because I knew that he would need to learn how to control himself. And my goal was to teach him self-control
Mhm.
so that he would not disrupt our family,
Mhm.
so that he would not hurt himself,
Mhm.
so that I wouldn't be called, CPS wouldn't be called on me, and so that we could have some normalcy in our family.
Yeah.
I honed in on his talents and skills, what he was interested in, which was cooking. And
Mhm.
so I started teaching him how to cook. I started teaching him how basic household skills. He loves watching things, videos, and he's a very visual learner. So I was just kind of watching and learning who he is as a
Mhm.
person and elevating that side of it instead of and trying to not be negative about the negative things that was happening. So it
Mhm.
was just a lot of back and forth. I felt like I needed help. I felt like I needed us to be a two-parent household, and so I got into bad relationships.
Mhm.
In the process of trying to solve the problem, but that was just not to solve that problem.
Mhm.
But then I finally got to the point where it was all about me and taking care of my kids
Mhm.
and raising them up into adulthood so that I could wholly focus on my journey of healing.
Mhm.
So during that time, I was journaling and I was doing EFT while
Mhm.
I was parenting them actively.
Yeah.
So that was how the healing journey was happening during that time.
Gotcha.
Um,
Gotcha.
And
Yeah.
then as they got older, that's when I started deeper healing and
Yeah.
traveling and finding pieces of myself because I felt I could focus on it. My focus was to get them raised and halfway normal, and then to raise myself
Yeah.
from there, from that point of pain to healing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm so curious to know, you said that while your son was having an external meltdown, you were having an internal meltdown.
Mhm.
And I'm so curious to know in those moments, what was helpful for you to be able to support your son because you're having an internal meltdown, but
Mhm.
but you also want to support your son in those moments. And so I can imagine that's a really big conflict, right?
Right.
Because it's like, how do I support him when I can't support myself? And so I'm curious
Mhm.
to know what helped you in those moments.
Hey there, if you're looking for daily somatic practices to add to your toolbox, I'd love to introduce you to my somatic bundle where I guide you through over 30 somatic tools and practices that support your nervous system by creating the safety that your nervous system requires to move out of survival mode. Just click the link in the show notes and you will get immediate access to my library of tools. See you there.
I'm having a community. I had a community of women that I was going to church with at the time, and we had our own group. We were all single women. I think, yeah, all of us except maybe one person were parents as
Mhm.
well. And so I had that group of women that I could go to, I could talk to, I could have some relief. I could be with the girls. I didn't have to, be in mom mode 24/7.
Mhm.
And by having that community, that really made me feel a sense of belonging. It made me feel that I could talk to someone. Or some people who were also single parents at different stages.
Yeah.
And we could just get together, eat, have fun, go out. We went to concerts, we went to the movies, we had potlucks. We just did a lot of different things together
Yeah.
that really helped me through that process. And
Mhm.
then being in that same environment, my kids had other children they could be around and they
Mhm.
could communicate with, and of course, in school and stuff like that. And then my extended family, I had them as well. My kids would go visit with them during the summers, um, some holidays, and it just made for a better balance. So
Yeah.
I wasn't in it alone.
Yeah.
I did have some reprieve, some breathing room every
Mhm.
now and then. And so
Yeah.
that did make a big difference. There was some give and take with that, of course, but it definitely helped me feel more supported and not so alone. And it could relieve the pressure valve that was building up.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, right? The more that we support ourselves, the more that we fill our own cup, the more
Mhm.
that we can be there for the people that we love. So
Yes,
that makes so much sense that you were able to fill your cup by surrounding yourself with community and by
absolutely.
doing things that really helped you feel safe and supported and belong and having that
Mhm.
sense of belonging.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I love that. Samantha, I'm curious to know how you would describe yourself today. Who is the Samantha today after you've gone through this healing journey?
Samantha today is free.
Mm,
She is in ease and flow. She's happy. And I
mm,
think that's the highest level. I'm all about living a blissful life. And I know happiness and bliss go hand in hand, and it's like one of the highest forms of vibration. And so I'm literally there.
mm,
I call myself, I'm like semi-retired,
mm,
and I get to do whatever I want to do. And I think that freedom that I have right now, and I think forever, is something that I don't think I will ever exchange or give up. I think that's,
mm,
for me, um, my, I don't know. indication that I'm successful. It's because I'm happy. And I'm reconnected with myself again. And I
Mhm.
feel I know who I am and I'm happy and secure in who I am. And I think that kind of encapsulate who I am as a person.
I love that. You're such an inspiration, and I know that we only just like touched on your journey and you've gone through all of these different things we didn't even touch on. I know you had mentioned off camera or maybe you mentioned it on here, but you've had your own childhood trauma, right?
Mhm.
And so I think that there's so much that we just didn't even touch on that you've experienced, but I think it's so important to share and remind people that there is hope and you can
Mhm.
get to the other side of healing. And no matter what you've experienced, even in the darkest days, like that there's still a light at the end of the tunnel, and you're just living proof that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Like, how many people can actually say, I'm happy, right?
Mhm.
That is so significant. That's so huge, right? And that is really just the definition of success, right? When you can say, I'm happy.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. That is so important. I think that's why the work that I do now as a self-care alchemist is so important because that was, I think, the foundation for me was self-care, is self-care, because
Mhm.
if I'm not focusing on taking care of and dialing into what I'm feeling, what I need, how I want to feel,
Mhm.
then it's harder to go through the healing journey if
Yeah.
you don't have a good foundation of my needs are important.
Yes.
And what I need right now is to heal myself so that I can be happy.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's why my work is so important to me and evangelizing it as much as I can,
Mhm.
and helping women to see that it's not something that's external. Self-care
Mhm.
is not an external thing. This is totally internal, and
Mhm.
it can and you can create a lifestyle. This is a lifestyle for you in
Mhm.
order to, again, be the foundation for your healing journey. And then once you've healed as much as you want to, then self-care is just a everyday part of your life
Yeah.
and so important.
1000%. And I love the way that you said that. It is 1000% a lifestyle, right? Like
Mhm.
everything is either, I always tell people, like everything is either supporting your nervous system or
Mhm.
dysregulating your nervous
Mhm.
system. So I love that you just said that self-care is a lifestyle. And then eventually it does become second nature, right?
Yes, yes.
So tell us, oh, go ahead. What were you
No,
going
I
to
was
say?
going to say about the nervous system regulation. So that's something that I've just started learning about last year and really understanding how intrinsic it is to the healing process.
Yeah.
And because I was doing a lot of head work, I was doing a lot of heart work, but my body, when because that was like the last frontier basically of healing was the nervous system for me. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I couldn't figure out why I got it in my head. I have it in my heart. I know these things, but why is my body still not responding? Or why do I still have like these blocks in my energy that's not allowing that full, complete healing process? And when I learned that it was my nervous system, I was like, wow, this is
Yes,
epic.
mind blowing. Yeah,
Yes,
it
mind
completely changes everything. Yeah,
it does.
1000%. Samantha, so tell us a little bit about your services and offers and how people can work with you. I'm so excited to hear about what you're offering.
Sure, sure. So I'm excited about this as well. So typically, I mean, I do offer like one-on-one coaching for women who are in burnout and they're wanting to move into more balance and bliss. But I know that sometimes that's not accessible to a lot of people. So I went on this project. I completed a project that I've been wanting to do for years, and that's offering kind of like automatic digital coaching. And so I've done that through my um, digital twin. I cloned myself basically, and she's called SAMI, SAMI, is self-care, abundance, manifestation, and intuition guide. She's a guide. And so I've put all of my books, videos, podcasts, all of my body of work into this app. And she literally can coach you through anything that you're dealing with in terms of self-care, business, anything, my books, she will literally talk to you through text message or voice. And you can literally, she sounds a little bit like me. So just talk to her, call her up, and get some coaching. And it's a much more accessible way because it's 24 available 24/7,
Yeah.
365. She never takes a day off, but she's always there to talk with you about whatever it is that you're dealing with, whether it's parenting, self-care, toxic relationship recovery, whatever it is, she's there for you. And it is free for the first 5 messages, and then you can log in with your email, get 10 more messages in voice. And if you want to have a continuous relationship with her, conversations, and get coaching, then there is a very small fee, like $15 a month or something like that, that you can get this coaching at the lowest tier. I also offer voice note coaching where I can just talk with you as a synchronous. And so it's your time, my time, we connect, and there's no like face to face on Zoom or anything like that. It's just when you have a thought, talk to me and I will respond back to you as well. So those are three types of coaching that I offer. And I'm really excited about that, being able to do that for people, because especially in this day and time, people are either time bound or finances bound. And so I want to be able to offer some solutions that will help them through build the burnout, stress management, parenting, and anything else that they feel that they need to have support on.
Wow, that is so cool. I feel like we're definitely that is like the most 2025 thing I've heard. I feel like we're definitely living in the future with like technology and like
Yeah.
cloning yourself. Like how
Mhm.
fascinating is that? That is so cool. I love that. So
Thank you.
how can people connect with you, or how can people download this app?
Sure. Well, you can go to samanthagregory.com
Mhm,
slash Sammy, SAMI.
mhm.
And from there, you can see the actual app and you can just start interacting with it. It's a web app, so you interact online.
Okay.
But you can also get on your phone and do it as well. So you can go there and you can also, on the rest of the site, see whatever, all the other things that I offer as well. And she makes recommendations for the resources that I have, coaching that I have. Just ask her, and she will point you to it and give you a link as well.
That is so cool. That's like
Yeah.
ChatGPT, but
Mhm.
with Samantha or Sammy
Yes.
with Sammy.
Yes. And the great thing is, it's not the information that she shares is not a generic AI response like
Yeah,
ChatGPT. Is all of my body of work, my knowledge base. And
yeah.
so you just go and talk with her, and she'll give you the way I'm talking with you now is the way she talks to you on there.
Wow, that is so
Mhm.
cool. I love that so
Yeah.
much. Okay, go check out Sammy, Samantha's clone,
Mhm.
interact with her, download the app, or go to her website. And all of that is going to be listed in the show notes so everyone has easy access. Samantha, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I know that so many women are going to resonate with you. I appreciate you for being vulnerable and sharing your story with us. And I know that we'll stay in touch.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much again for having me on your show.
Thank you so much for joining me today. If you absolutely loved this episode, I would so appreciate it if you subscribed and left a review on Apple Podcast, or take a screenshot and share this episode on social media. The more nervous systems we reach, the more generational cycles we break, and the more we contribute to a kinder and safer world. And if you're looking for somatic healing services, send me a DM and I'd love to chat on how I can support you. I'll see you in the next episode.